Good morning and welcome to the Marketing Rocketfuel podcast. My name is Michael. This is Drew.
And I'm Drew.
Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Drew.
How are you?
You know, it's been a really interesting couple of weeks here on the internet planet. It's so strange what's happening right now. All these things that were once like way out in the future science fiction, and now they're just they're becoming reality, and that always makes you sound old, because you know when you were watching Star Trek TOS and you're like, oh, I saw this back when Shatner was doing, but you know, we were sitting here messing with the cameras and changing things up a little bit here in the studio, and Michael, you were telling me about this really interesting AI camera setup. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's called Eye Contact. And then you were like, hey, that used to be our email marketing program. Yes, I remember Eye Contact. I think they were purchased by some other company. Anyway, this Eye Contact AI is like an overlay for your webcam. And what it does is no matter where you're looking during a conference call, it has your eyes trained on the camera. So
that's so weird.
It is weird, and when you see footage of it, it's weird, but also, I don't want to say captivating, but engaging. Mm-hmm. Because like, I feel like I'm looking at you on my screen, but technically I should be looking at you on my screen.
Well, you know, it's one of the things that's really hard to do. Like, and when you're running the podcast in here, and you see me doing this all the time, you know, you're down here on my screen. So if I've got you in the frame of my hands right now, you're down here, but the camera is actually up here.
Yes.
And so if I want to have a conversation with somebody, and I've got the camera up here, I want to make sure I want it to feel as much like face to face as possible. And so, you know, I want to look at the camera, but I see the movement down here. Yeah. It'd be really cool if they could have the overlay so that the person you're speaking to is over the camera.
Right. I mean, I could do that. I could sit here and then now the camera is right above your face. So, but my tendency on these things, and we're getting way off topic, but my tendency...
we can get on the topic that's... I promise you this is not clickbait.
Exactly. So. My tendency on these recordings, a little behind the scenes, is I maybe it's just because I'm self-centered and selfish, and maybe I'm just built that way, but I always want to just see what I look like on camera.
Yeah. Oh, I think your eyes are naturally drawn to yourself.
Yeah.
But it reminds me, though, when I was a kid, this was back in the mid 80s. I had a friend who had this Mr. T poster in his room.
Yes.
You know, and you know, Mr. T's like there pointing at you, but his eyes always followed you around the room. It was one of those posters where he was looking straight at you, and no matter where you were, his eyes fall. And it totally creeped me out, you know, because Mr. T was scary back then. Anyway, he wasn't a meme,
right?
And so, you know, the A-Team was the big cool thing, but Mr. T's eyes are just following you around the room no matter where you went,
right?
And so I'm just kind of imagining that, only videos that just. You know, the eyes are always
looking at you. Well, we'll have to mess around with it. Maybe I can find it and deploy it on the next episode. But that is a different episode. We may be even teasing a following episode.
Maybe just a little bit of a tease for the next episode. It's going to be fun. So,
well, Drew, how has the first month of the year treated you? I can't believe we're 1/12 through the year. January was a blur. Literally, it was New Year's Eve yesterday. How has the first month treated you? How are things?
You know, January was an awesome month for us. And you know, I'm going to knock on wood here, but, you know, we keep hearing things about, you know, terrible economy and stuff like that. But in reality, what we're finding is small to mid-sized businesses, like the ones who are probably listening to this podcast, are just needing to get creative to make their businesses run well, and they're needing marketing help, and they need advice. They need they're just the ones that are out there getting creative are getting it done, and we're seeing a lot of success with those. And we're seeing a lot of success in our own business that way too. And it's been a really great month, and it's been a great month for the clients that we're serving. So, that makes me really happy.
Yeah. So this month I turned 7 for the 7th time.
Wow.
Knocking on the door. So, one of my goals this year was to not limp into turning 50, but to sort of sprint into turning 50. So it's been a good start to that. But
there's a marathon coming up you could run with me.
I can watch with you. How about I watch?
Okay, there you go.
What marathon is this? Is this the Cincinnati one?
Oh,
no.
Yeah, that's the Flying Pig. And so I'll go up and I'll run the full marathon. And my running buddy that I've been training with for the past couple of years, he's going to run his first half marathon. And I tell you what, I was really proud of him. This month was the first time he has run a 10K since he was in high school on the cross country team.
My goodness.
And so, and he's a little bit younger than I am, but he's not fresh out of high school.
Right.
And his 5 kids will tell you that. But yeah, it's been really cool, not only in my own fitness journey, but watching my friend's fitness journey there, as he's gotten in better shape and he's feeling better. And so, a lot of people are like, I ain't running unless there's a bear chasing me. But, what I've found, this is, again, a sidebar for the whole topic of this conversation. But, running has just done so much for me, and I'm really grateful for that. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I've done one marathon and it cured me of marathons. But
I've done one and it made me want to run more.
That's a real runner. I was a fake runner. I was a fake runner. I'm coming out now as a fake runner. I was a fake runner. So,
hey, speaking of posers and fakers, hey, there's a good segue right into what we're actually here to talk about today.
Exactly. And what is that? What are we talking about today, Drew? Let's get this train back on the track.
All right. So today we're talking about something that all small businesses know they need to do, but very, very, very few of them have any idea how to do it, and especially how to do it well. And that's social media. And we're specifically talking about your social media coordinator in a small to mid-sized business. And this is different than your marketing director. It's different than your art director. It's different than your copywriter. This is a specific position within your organization or with the agency that you're working with. And we want to kind of demystify that position and kind of help you. If you're needing some help with your social media, you can use the advice here. You can always give us a call, but we want to help demystify that and help you be successful with your social media and know what to expect from the person who's running that social media.
Fantastic. So in our pregame, and we do pregame despite our rabbit trails we've been down today.
Yeah, you wouldn't think we rehearsed this ahead of time, would you?
What is social media? Now, if you had asked that question of anybody even 5 years ago, it would have been a much different answer.
Absolutely.
And maybe even 5 months ago, that would be a much different answer. So let's sort of get our arms and brains around what social media is as we speak. Let's timestamp this. This is February 1, 2023. How would we define as marketing practitioners what social media is?
Social media is any kind of communication where you're putting it out to a mass audience, but it allows for two-way communication. And so you can put something out, your audience can respond back, and you can continue that conversation. You're sharing that conversation. Now, a lot of times what happens on social media is you post something and maybe nobody comments, or maybe people maybe people comment and nobody responds to those comments, whatever. But the possibility is there for two-way communication. So social media channels are the individual platforms where you have something dedicated that you're posting about. It may be your personal profile on social media. It may be your company page on social media, on Facebook. It could be your company's Instagram, your personal Instagram. It could be your YouTube channel. YouTube is a social media, although it's a little bit different animal and it's a little bit outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. But popular social media channels right now, again, February 1st, 2023, this may change next week. But popular social media channels are Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Twitter's a kind of a hot mess right now. What did I just pass by?
I think
YouTube,
I think
Instagram.
those are the big ones. The main ones.
Those are the big ones there. But it gets you an idea. These are social media channels. These are places where your company can communicate with people and share content that people want to consume and interact with. And so that's kind of a big word definition on what social media is. But as new channels emerge, that's how you'll know these are social media channels. That's how you'll know, because it fosters two-way communication.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But it's not just email, because email is not necessarily a mass thing where everybody can reply and everybody can see it.
Right.
Email takes a lot of the social out of your media.
Yeah. I think the main thing that we need to remember when talking about social media is there's this core concept of engagement with social media. And that engagement can, and you mentioned this, that engagement can range from a thumbs up, that can range from a comment. And then if you're lucky, and we've talked about this with video, the engagement sort of swells into something that they call viral. To where there's a ton of engagement and a ton of sharing and likes or dislikes. The things that tend to be viral tend to be very provocative or controversial.
Things that evoke a response.
Absolutely. So you can get caught in that a little bit.
Right.
I think for me, social media, if you look at it in the whole spectrum of thing as a parent, social media has turned into something to where kids can communicate with each other outside of the purview of their parents. Like you will find very few kids, teenagers on Facebook, because they know their parents are on Facebook. So they run over to TikTok, and now a lot of parents are on TikTok. So, if you want to chase a trend, find out where the kids are going. And communicating and sharing their content, because they want to do that without prying eyes. And
that's not always an indicator of what's going to be huge next. Because if you take a look at things like Snapchat was set to be huge. And now it's kind of not even really part of the conversation, especially when you're talking about business social media. And business social media is a lot different than posting pictures of grandma or your dog. So
you're right.
Although sometimes it closely resembles it.
It does. So how in the world of social media, how does this help a business, no matter what size? Just let's talk business in general, and then if we want to sort of narrow that down, we can.
Well, there are multiple ways that social media channels can help your business, and this is all assuming that you're posting regular content to your channels. So, a lot of especially small business and mid-sized business social media channels look abandoned. And but if you're posting regular content, it can help you in a number of ways. First, it helps you get information to your audience. So if you're going to be closed for President's Day, for example, that's a good thing to post on your social media. If you're having a sale, that's a good thing to post on social media. It gets the message out. If you're having an event of some sort, that's a good thing to post because it just gets information to people. But people aren't subscribing to social media channels just to see your product or service hawked over and over and over again. The other thing that social media can do for you is it humanizes your business. It kind of lets people see behind the curtain that real people work for your company, that human beings are here and human beings that are relatable, that kind of get it. And some successful things that some companies have done, they're posting like life in the office, what's happening in your office, what happens, behind the scenes at the store. If you're a manufacturer, sometimes cool slow-mo videos of your manufacturing process. Those are things that people find interesting, and that they want to engage with. And so those things can kind of help people say, okay, I like this company, I trust this company, and I think this company gets me. I think this company understands who I am. And so I want to consider doing business with them, or at least I have a favorable impression of them. Most of the time, people are not, well, with most types of businesses, people are not just going to Facebook and saying, oh, I'm looking for a business on Facebook. But what they're doing is they hear about a business, they want to see what your social media presence looks like to help solidify their impression of what you're doing. So it shouldn't be considered just like your primary sales vehicle, unless here's a big caveat. Companies that do really successful with that are like retail clothing companies, retail stores that are trendy, that have new stuff that they can show all the time. Those type of channels do really well getting direct business from social media. I mean, you have programs where you can actually buy things directly from Facebook and Instagram, and be able to do that. But unless you're running a retail business, you're typically not going to benefit in that way. It's more of public relations. So,
Yes. Let me just add on to that before we move on to what a social media coordinator does or should do. I think you touched on it. The social media is a great way for an organization or business to flex the empathy they have for their customer.
Yes.
It allows them, and you said it great. It allows them to let the customer know that they get them. There's a saying or a thought that people don't buy a drill for the drill. They buy the drill for the hole. And so, whether it's clothing or a phone or a coffee cup or a microphone, these companies have a chance with social media to let that customer know you have a chance to let your customer know that you understand the problem that you're solving. And you can do that in a very serious and dramatic tone. What works for almost every company is humor. So if you can say that you solve their problem and then make them laugh and teach them something at the same time, even better. So just wanted to put a cherry on the top of that discussion. Let's move on to social media coordinator and what they do for either your business or what they're going to do via an agency for your business.
Right. And so this is one of those things where a lot of people get confused about the expectations of the position they're hiring for. And especially in smaller companies, where maybe there's not a huge marketing department or even a budget for multiple people in the marketing department. They've got people doing a lot of different things when they really need somebody focused on this area. And so with your social media coordinator, a lot of times what happens is this person is a copywriter that's really good at writing text, or this person's maybe a videographer that's really good at producing videos or photos. But your social media coordinator is the one who needs to put that together to say, okay, here I'm going to create posts that are engaging, that will get people talking, that will evoke a response in my audience and help build the channel. Because if you've got no audience on your channel, then you're really not able to communicate with as many people. But they want real audience. And so we're going to touch on that here in a few minutes, but they want real engagement with real people. But to do that, they have some steps that they have to follow. A social media coordinator is going to be able to plan out what content is going to go on which channel. And usually they're planning that out about a month at a time. And so they're using a tool to kind of map out what your social media is going to be over the next month. And they may work with a graphic designer, or they may just put the content together themselves. They may use your photos. They may use stock photos. They may use a combination. They may use your videos or some stock videos. But they're putting that content together, preparing it to post out on your channel, and then they're following up after they post. They're watching, they're listening, they're seeing what's trending, they're seeing what's going on. And so it's a lot of different things there that one position does. But really, when you look at it, it comes down to about 2.5 things. It's content creation, community engagement, and then to some extent, it's metrics analysis. Now, the metrics analysis piece of it, that's a lot of what the marketing director is going to be doing as well, or maybe somebody who is above your social media coordinator. But a lot of times they're going to be looking at those metrics together to formulate a strategy on how to grow your channels. But let's talk a little bit about content creation first, though, because this is something that has changed dramatically in the past 6 to 8 months. It's really, really had a seismic shift in social media. And that's been the rise of short form video. Short form video, and we've got another podcast just about short form video. And it's been a tough nut to crack for a lot of companies because it has taken over. Well, with the rise of TikTok, what's happened is it's also taken over Instagram. So Instagram used to be the photographer's channel. You know, this is a place where you're going to see amazing photographs or amazing graphics, amazing artwork, things like that, but still images. But now Instagram is primarily a short form video channel. And if you're not doing short form video on your Instagram, you're probably not going to get noticed. And so that's become extremely important. Now, you can still do photos. You can still do images, graphics, memes, things like that. Those still do get attention. But your channel as a whole is not going to get a lot of attention unless you're doing reels, unless you're doing stories, unless you're doing that short form video content. And these are little videos that are like 15 to 30 second videos that need to happen. And so what's going on right now is the people who used to be really good at social media doing those still images suddenly have a problem on their hands. They don't know how to shoot, direct, or plan video. And so a whole new crop of individuals is having to come in to produce that content. And so a lot of companies are like, okay, well, you're my social media person. Then shouldn't you be able to do this? And the reality of it is that the content that's being produced has changed, and people who can slap together a graphic in Canva aren't necessarily the people who can produce a video.
Right. Right.
So that's been a big shift, and it's something that it's a shift that we had to make here at Escape Plan as well. We've had to change the way that we're doing, and we had a few ups and downs with that. Mainly because a lot of video producers want a lot of money to produce their videos because they're used to producing highly polished, really high level production on your videos. Your short form video content is not meant to be that. It's not meant to be a massive production. It's meant to be short form video and in the moment kind of video, or just something clever that you can shoot on your phone.
Right.
And videographers, not all videographers, but most videographers who have been videographers for a while, they kind of have this elite mentality that says, oh, well, your video needs to be this and this and this, and I'm going to charge, $400 to $600 for a finished minute. Well, if you're doing 30 reels a month, that gets pretty dang costly.
Yes.
And nobody, especially in small business, can afford that. And your big businesses, they're going to have somebody on staff, probably multiple people on staff doing that if they're a major corporation. And so what's happening now is videographers, there's a time and a place for videographers in high quality video. That's not going to go away, but they're struggling to find their purpose and their place right now. But social media coordinators have had to adapt and figure out how to produce these short form videos. And it's really been kind of a trial and error, because what's trending this week on short form video is not necessarily trending next week on short form video. So you've got to be able to get good at using the tools that you have on your phone and on your computer, if you're doing any editing on your computer, to be able to produce this content on a larger scale.
Yeah. So just to dovetail into that, I think another thing that companies, small and large, grossly underestimate is the volume of content they're going to need to produce. You mentioned it before. Most companies, if you go to their social media, it looks like a ghost town, or it looks like a dead account. Well, in reality, they may be posting on the regular. They may be posting once a month. And that, in today's landscape, is going to feel like a ghost town.
Right. Because... And here's why that feels like a ghost town, because I think a lot of people don't really get this. And I had a conversation with a client the other day specifically about this, because they're like, I saw this thing on Instagram and I went back later and I couldn't find it. I couldn't search that out, because they're thinking of it like searching YouTube videos or searching Google. And the reality is there's so much content coming at people, and depending on how many people, especially on Instagram and TikTok, how many people your followers are following, their feeds are getting new content every second. Literally every second. They're getting new content shoved at them. And so if you post once a month, the odds of you actually being seen and being considered relevant by the algorithms that power these things, this artificial intelligence that shoves content at people based on what they like, is very, 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 very minute. And so you're just not going to be seen. And even if somebody goes directly to your channel, if they see one post a month, they're going to be like, oh, well, these people don't get it.
Yes.
They don't understand that we that we want this content. They don't have and if all that content is an ad every month, you just might as well quit.
Right. Right. You may as well be.
Don't even
I mean,
bother.
most companies, their biggest enemy is, let me see if I can say this word, anonymity. That's their, and I'm not going to say that again, but that's their biggest enemy, right? And
Right.
you do not want to increase that by having commission breath or overly salesy.
Right.
Because if you do, then it won't be. You're going to put a cold blanket over any great content, even if it's highly produced, even if it's highly engaging. If all it is buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. That's not very social. That's the dinner party guest that you're running away from. So you do not want to be that person on social media.
It's like the business card shotgun guy at a networking
absolutely
event, you know? They're just
so let me ask you,
let me touch on that anonymity piece real quick. The anonymity piece.
Yes,
I just did that to show off, to flex my muscles there. You know, it's interesting. So I have a client, and I'm not going to say which client it is, but a couple of weeks ago we did a post. It was a short video of a guy doing a DIY ceiling fan, and he totally messed it up. It was wobbly ceiling fan, and it was sparks and all this stuff, and it was obviously meant to be humor, and it was for an electrical services company, and we posted that out there. And a lot of people looking at that just didn't get that it was meant to be ironic and humorous. It was just, which I'm looking at this thing and it's like, it's obvious that this is like a what not to do kind of thing. And because, you know, they didn't have subtitles for the voiceover. And so, you know, people were just watching it and saying, and then they saw the name of the company and they're like, oh, is that a video of what they can do? Like, what kind of an idiot's going to post that as a video of what their good work looks like? But it didn't matter because they started commenting. And some people were, you know, getting up in arms. Don't ever, if it sparks like that, don't use it. One dude was like, oh, I can install ceiling fans myself. I don't even turn the power off. And like,
good luck with that.
So, but it created a conversation, and so, you know, our social media people started replying and engaging with those folks, not in a disrespectful way. You know, you never want to insult your audience, even if they disagree with you, or even if they're clearly boneheaded. You know, you don't want to insult people on social media because that will always backfire. But if you can be funny and fun and laugh with people, that's great. If you can laugh at yourself, that's even better because it shows that vulnerability. Right. This one guy, I said, you know, he's like, oh, well, yeah, I don't even turn the power off. And I just, you know, and, you know, our guy was like, well, we're really glad that you're still with us because that's the most dangerous way to do it.
Right. Right.
And that got a laugh from some of the other people out there. But that client, normally January is a very slow month for that client, and their sales were up 35% in January.
Nice.
That's what social media can do for your business.
Oh, yeah.
If you engage. So don't be afraid of people giving you some backlash there. Don't be afraid of negative comments. Don't take them personally. But, you know, just enjoy being there. Have fun.
Roll with it. You got to roll with it. Absolutely. So,
okay. So we talked about content creation, community engagement, metrics analysis.
Yeah, I want to dovetail that into the who should do this job conversation.
Right.
Because that metrics analysis piece, and you and I sort of volleyed this back and forth, you know, the metrics that you're analyzing, and you're gonna hear all kinds of takes on this, But
Mhm.
for the most part, the metrics that people look at um, and make decisions about are not the metrics that you would think. And so those need to be served up by whoever this social media coordinator reports to. I hate to sound
Right.
corporate like that, but that's who the
But there's a hierarchy. There's a chain of
absolutely.
command.
So if you are your own social media coordinator, then you need to
Mhm.
serve yourself these sort of metrics. And
Mhm.
spoiler alert, they're not likes. They're not they're not the thumbs up that everybody likes
Followers.
or the views. You're not that's not what you're those are what we call in the business vanity metrics. Those
That's right.
you can pay for those. You can literally pay for those. These some of these huge accounts you see, those are not real likes. Those are not real views. Those are bots.
Mhm.
Those are like click farms or whatever you want to call them. So those metrics, we're probably not. This is not the forum to take a deep dive into what those metrics are, but the
Right.
person who should do this job needs to have a basic grasp of what these metrics or KPIs um, are, and then they
Mhm.
should be able to either follow a plan or hammer out a plan that drives results towards those metrics. So, with that being said, because this whole metrics analysis that could be a whole other episode, and
We could spend three
uh,
episodes on what metrics mean and all
absolutely
that. And honestly, uh, I don't even like doing that.
right,
So it's with us. It's a lot more about. It's all about
right,
engagement. And engagement is something that you can measure, but you can also
right,
feel.
absolutely
You can tell if there are people engaging with your content. It's pretty obvious that people are engaging with your content. If you're getting a lot of robots just liking your content, you're going to get a ton of likes. If you get a lot of robots following your channel, you're going to get a lot of followers, but you're going to have very, very, very little conversation that doesn't sound like you're talking to a robot.
right.
And robots have gotten very sophisticated. AI is very sophisticated. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the next episode. But you can still tell,
Yes.
and and you can feel if there are real people engaging with your content, and that's really what it's about. It's about connecting with real people. So who should do this job? Because that's the question that you posed out there, and there's a lot of confusion about this as well. Um, a lot of people think, oh well, these young people, these Gen Zs. We used to always say, oh, the millennials all know, but the millennials are getting old too. So, um, but a lot of people are like these young people that are on their phones all the time. They ought to be our social media coordinator. The kid working the register up, that's like the summer intern. They ought to be doing your social media. And yeah, they spend a lot of time on social media, so they get that aspect of it. But what you need to realize is your social media coordinator has to understand not just how the platforms work, but what are the goals of your
Right.
business? What are the things that you're trying to accomplish in your business? Who are you trying to reach? Who is your target audience? Who are the secondary audiences that know that target audience? And what kind of content do they want to engage with? What kind of content works on each individual channel? And that's not a kid that's fresh out of high school. A lot of times that's not a kid that's fresh out of college because they don't have the life experience yet to do that unless they've had an internship with a small to mid-sized
Right.
business. Um, and so, it shouldn't be teenagers. It shouldn't be the kid next door that's good with computers. And, it shouldn't be the kid next door that's always walking around with headphones on and they're just, like this on their phone all the time. That doesn't make a good social media coordinator. Now, depending on your business needs, it could be somebody working for you full time, or it could be somebody at the agency that you work with. Um, in my opinion, and we've gone over this several times, as a at a certain point in your business, you're going to reach a turning point. As you're initially growing your business, there's a lot of things that should be done in house. You should be doing some of these things. You should be out on social media. You should be promoting your company, or somebody very close in the inner circle there should be promoting your company. They should be in charge of marketing, but marketing may not be their only job at your company. If you're a 1, 2, 3 person show, somebody there should be doing that marketing. You should be doing guerrilla marketing, where you're just out there hitting the streets and communicating. You're doing crazy stuff and having fun, figuring out what works. But there's going to come a point in your business where it grows to the point where it's gone beyond you as the CEO. It's gone beyond the owners, to needing more. We talked about this a few episodes back in the CEO bottleneck, where you need to have an agency that you're working with, because you probably got the budget for a full-time employee, but you need more than that full-time employee can deliver. And so this is where you should probably be working with an agency that specializes in your size business, because they're going to have somebody that's dedicated to your social media. They're going to have somebody that's dedicated to your website, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're going to get more bang for your buck working with an agency at that point. Then as you grow, if you eventually become like a big corporation, then you may outsource some of what you do. You may have some in-house staff. You may have some people, and as companies scale up, if that's what you want to do with your company, then yeah, by all means, get a full marketing team, but really, if you're that mid-sized company, you're at that stage in your growth, you're probably going to be working with an agency. And so that's kind of what I'm going to focus on here, is you need to have an agency that has somebody that's dedicated to doing your social media. Somebody who is focused on that for you.
Yeah. So let me chime in here. I think there's a reason why most organizations do social media poorly. And whether or not that's based on the person they have doing it, based on the methodology that they use. But if we're going to be focused, if we're focusing on, a social media coordinator and what that person should do and who that person should be, I think, and I touched on this already. Number one, there's not a plan. It's sort of this, let's do what everybody else is doing, no matter what it is. Let's just do it. Which, if you're not doing anything, that's better than nothing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are some trends that you need to keep an eye on, but you need to approach them strategically.
Absolutely, and
you need to be able to evaluate: do these trends fit within our company's mission, vision, values?
And then this person, this social media coordinator, they need to be somebody that executes a plan. You do not want, yes, they're going to need some creative vision and some creative chops, but this is a person that is a doer, that goes out, executes a plan. Then you meet with them, or the agency meets with them, or whoever meets with them and says, yeah, this is working, or no, this isn't working, we need to adjust it. And then they go back out and then execute again. And so I think that is why I think you, Drew, lean towards this. This typically is not going to be a somebody fresh out of high school or even fresh out of college, because at that point, very few of, yes, they're going to be extraordinary high school kids that fit this mold, and extraordinary young person in their 20s that fits this mold. But they're probably going to get, if they're that extraordinary, they're going to get gobbled up and by a company. And if if you know that teenager or that young person, go ahead and overpay them and keep them in your organization because they're few and far between. But what I'm saying is this person needs to, and you alluded to this, this is not the person that is on social media all day. That's not this person. This is the person that would lives and breathes in a spreadsheet and executes off of what they see on the spreadsheet, and then goes and does it over and over and over again. Highly detail oriented, very, very, very meticulous. That's the person you need in this position, and it's not the person running. This is not. I'm putting this very poorly. This is not something to be trifled with as far as a position. This is a position that you look at and you have 0 second thoughts on whether or not things are getting done. That's this person.
Well, and the thing about that person, so typically people who are really good with spreadsheets aren't necessarily generally your more creative people. You've got your right brain and left brain people. And so it's very rare to find somebody who's great with spreadsheets and also really creative with art and ideas. And that's why it's really good to have this member as a part of an overall marketing team, because you've got people who are bantering around creative ideas who are also part of that team, but you've got somebody whose job it is to execute those and to form that into a strategy. And that needs to be a much more detail-oriented person, and a person you can rely on, somebody whose feet you can hold to the fire and know that this is going to get done and we don't have to worry about it. And are there going to be missteps in social media? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a medium where it's good to try new things. Now, you got to be careful, because there are certain things that if you mess up, you can mess up big.
Yes.
If you inadvertently say something that's insensitive to a people group, that can backfire. I mean, humor has to be approached delicately, especially when your company's on the line.
Right.
So things like that can really backfire. So you have to have somebody who understands, culture, who understands the audience that you're talking with, but also who they know, to make sure you want to make people laugh, but you don't want to offend necessarily. There may be a group of people, depending on your company, that you do want to offend, that you do want to make angry. And that's if you're targeted towards a specific niche. This is my word that's hard to pronounce today. If you're geared towards a specific group of people who is maybe not necessarily in the mainstream, or maybe their whole thing is divisive, then maybe you do want to irritate people. Maybe you do want to ruffle some feathers. Small irritations, by the way, are not necessarily a bad thing. Making people slightly uncomfortable is a good marketing technique sometimes, because if people are comfortable, they're not going to change what they're doing.
Right.
So you've got to have somebody who has the empathy, the EQ to be able to understand what's appropriate and what's not for your channel. And so that's where your social media coordinator comes in. And that's where working as part of a team, if somebody raises a red flag and says, yeah, that's really crossing the line, that's where having a team is really helpful to you. But, sometimes you're going to have things that just fail. Sometimes you're going to have things that just bomb. But the thing about social media is you're posting, every day there's something new, and it's quickly. Some people say, oh, well, it never goes away if it's on the internet. But the reality is it gets buried way down at the bottom of the channel. Yep. And even if something bad does kind of take off and people start going crazy over it, any press is good press.
Right.
So,
all right.
take advantage of that, and your social media coordinator should know how to engage with the people on that channel, even if they're trolls, even if they're trying to be malicious about your channel. They're going to have the knowledge and experience to engage with that audience in a way that's going to benefit your business.
Well, Drew, as we wrap up this episode, we always try to at the end of every episode, and we're not perfect either on this, but what is something, an action tip, something actionable that we could have people do after they've listened or watched this episode?
What I want everybody to do who listens to this podcast is go look at your social media channels objectively, and have somebody else look at your social media channels and look, have you posted consistently? And if you are posting consistently, is it good quality content? Is it content that somebody who doesn't work for your company would care about? And that's something that's usually a big ego hit, because we all want to talk about ourselves. But the reality is we need to talk about our customers. We need to talk about our audience. We need to talk about things that they care about. And so, if the content on your channel if it's non-existent, you got to start posting. You got to get a plan in place to start posting consistently. If it is existing, do people care about that? And if you answered no to either one of those questions, then hey, let's talk. Contact Escape Plan for a free discovery call. This is my little plug because we are sponsored by Escape Plan Marketing. But I'm not going to do a 5-minute commercial for Escape Plan, because that irritates me when I'm watching other people's podcasts and they sit there and start a product pitch in the middle of the thing, because I pay for YouTube Premium so I don't have to watch commercials.
There you go.
That's my little rant for the day. But if you need help, go to escapeplanmarketing.com. We'll be glad to talk to you. And if we can't help you, we'll point you in the right direction.
So I'm gonna bolt on to this action tip. I'm gonna challenge anybody listening to this or watching this: review your social media channels. Yes. Here's the challenge: whatever you're doing, whether it's you deem it good or great or lukewarm. Now, if it's bad, you probably need to reevaluate. But if it's good, I would increase the volume that you're posting by 10 times it. So if you're posting once a week, that's 10 times a week, guys. If you're posting 10 times a week, yep, we're talking 100 times a week. Because I think people grossly underestimate it. You just mentioned this, Drew, that if you post something once, it's going to get buried within the hour. If you're posting 10 times, it's going to get buried within the hour. So increase the volume, folks. I'm going to tell a quick story. When I had my agency and I was thinking about what I would charge for my services, one of my mentors I talked to, he said, all right, this is how you price things. And this, I don't know how I'm going to tie this together, but I'm going to tell this story anyway.
Yeah, I'm waiting with bated breath.
He said, whatever you want to charge, double it. And if it doesn't make you feel slightly nauseous, double it again. And the reason is that we get caught in either it's confirmation bias, or we're scared of rejection, or we have some deep-seated fear that keeps us from doing what needs to be done. And when you just double, triple, 10 times something that you're already doing to get a result, then it takes all that out of play. So that's my challenge. It's not an action tip. It's a challenge. Go out and 10 times whatever you're doing on social media, and let us know in the comments or in an email or something. Let us know how that works out for you. And if you need help with that sort of volume, please contact Drew. Drew, as we say goodbye here, just if you're listening, watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. It helps with the algorithm.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell. Whatever they say on these other YouTube channels that we fail to ask
every
for.
channel,
Yes.
every show you watch and every podcast you watch, everything is always like,
Yes.
subscribe, hit the bell, like, subscribe, hit the bell, like, subscribe, hit the bell, like, subscribe. You know what? If you like this, you're going to do that.
Yep.
If you don't like this, let us know in the comments. Tell us how we ticked you off.
If you hate,
if you think we're off base,
what you do is if you hate this, send it to your biggest competitor and share it with them.
Yeah, go ahead. If you hate it, let us know. It's all right. Yeah, and okay, we'll close with this. We do read the comments. We do watch to see if people are commenting and respond. If you don't like us, it's okay. It's all right. I have enough self-confidence. I've lived on this planet 50 years. Your like, hate mail is not going to erode my self-confidence. So, but if you don't like something, or if you think we could do something better, constructive feedback is always appreciated.
Yes. All right, Drew, as we wrap up this episode, let us know what they can look forward to in the next episode, and then send us off with any closing words of wisdom, if there's any that you want to share.
All right. So the next episode, we've alluded to it several times during this podcast, and oh gosh, we're almost up on an hour. So we definitely got to wrap this up. But the next podcast is going to talk about the rise of ChatGPT, and does it mean the death of copywriters? Does it mean copywriters are going to be out of a job? And what does a copywriter actually do? And should it mean that copywriters should be out of a job? So I'm just going to leave it at that, and that's our next episode of Marketing Rocket Fuel. And words of wisdom. Hey, go Pack.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Have a great week.